want to elaborate on a video that I made, I think about a couple of weeks ago, um, about secularism in art and literature. And as I mentioned, I have no problem with secularism itself. All it means is that you're non-religious. I'm non-religious. I'm an atheist. But the problem, of course, is, as I imagine, that with the modernization of art and literature, that secularism accompanied it and became a personality rather than a belief. And I think, as an example, right, there's this sort of fake earthiness that developed in art and literature, this sometimes nihilistic sort of personality, the sense that you're disillusioned or disappointed with the way that society or that your life has been, and so you want to completely reject all of it. This depression, this sense of futility, and this rebellion. And you see a lot of this in books like Catcher in the Rye, where there were clues. You don't have to do some more research about this, but there were clues that perhaps J.D. Salinger was encouraging this sort of thing rather than warning people about it. But that's speculation. I don't know for a fact, and that's a whole other story. But I think more importantly, this ties into something else that I watched recently. It's very interesting. It's a channel called The War on Beauty. It's Julia James Davis who's created this channel, discusses a lot of these themes, and she mentions that secularism in art eventually made or led to art that glamorized the ordinary or the pedestrian too much. And I would imagine that if you were to suggest to many of these contemporary artists who create this art that is too ordinary, too pedestrian, that it's not interesting enough, that it lacks maybe the qualities of the older art forms, that would be considered snobbery, which I think is strange, because I don't understand why wanting to transcend what is ordinary is equated with snobbery. Because generally, when I imagine snobbery, I see it in my own mind as a class of people who are quieter, more subdued. They tend to be the ones accusing others of being too loud, too obnoxious. They don't have this sort of Prometheus complex. They're not the ones encouraging people to go beyond what is ordinary. They would be perfectly content having an ordinary life, because they don't generally question their upbringing. Everything's about strictness. Everything's about what either their parents or what their school has taught them is true. So that entire stereotype is being completely misunderstood. And I think that if we are able to make these distinctions much more clearly, then I think it's easier to go forward. It's easier to create art that is, and literature that is far more authentic.